Hello ladies and gentlemen, I hope you appreciate what I'm doing for you for this particular vlog, because I've just missed a picture of, I think it was a chaffinch that just flew right next to me. However, I didn't have my camera ready because I was getting ready to set up this vlog. So, oh wow, he's just gone. That's amazing. I'm here at the Cotswold Wildlife Park, where there are obviously lots of birds, lots of animals. I've just been through the penguin section. I've seen some prairie dogs, and I'm testing out a new lens. Not my lens, but it's a lens that at some point I was thinking, maybe I should get this, maybe I shouldn't. Is it worthwhile? And the reason that I'm asking that is because it's not an XF lens. Now, if you know the Fuji system, you will know XF lens are the, I wouldn't say the most top of the range, they're their top of the range series. XC lenses, which is what I've got on today, isn't. And here it is. It is the XC50 to 230. Now, this used to be a kit lens. And when my mum bought her X-T3, it came as a kit with this lens and the 50 to, the 18 to 50. So it meant that you had an effective focal range of 18 to 230, which is pretty good. And I know that mum's used these for the last few years on her X-T2 and has never had a problem with it. But obviously thinking about having a new camera and having, what I used to have on the Nikon was 18 to 300. And I'm missing out on that. Now, in some respects, I've got a slightly larger sensor, 26 megapixels instead of 21. So my thought is, does this 230 lens stand up enough so that I could perhaps get my own version of this? They do an XF 50 to 200 as well. But that 30, is it enough of an extra incentive in order to get a slightly cheaper, slightly less well-built lens? Well, here we are. So far, what I've found is actually it's pretty good. The build quality on this isn't quite as good as you would get with the XF series. I have been incredibly impressed with the XF series, but what I do have on this, I don't have an aperture ring, so the aperture's got to be controlled by the control dial. Not a problem, really, not so much of a problem that I thought it would be, but it's like using any other digital camera that doesn't have an aperture ring on their lens. It is 4.5 to 6.7. In comparison, the 100 to 400, which is a lens I will have to get at some point if I want to do wildlife, I'm going to hire one of those soon so I can actually try it out, is I think pretty much the same. I'm not entirely sure, but I think that caps out at about 6.7 as well, and that's at the 400 meter range. So it's a compromise, but it's a light lens. It's not metal, it's a plastic. It feels a lot less more solid. That's a lot less solid. There we go. There's words there and grammar and stuff. It feels a lot less solid than the XF lenses that I've used so far, which are the 18 to 135 and the 18 to 50. But so far, it seems to be doing a really good job. Now, that was an experience. I've just seen some monkeys, and you should be seeing some of the pictures, maybe some of the video. I'm trying to get video. I'm trying to get B-roll to show you what I'm actually getting here, but that's a little bit difficult. I've got one hand. I haven't got a tripod. I've got to operate two cameras at the same time. You know what I mean? Anyway, we've just seen a sort of an incident with the monkeys. Where somebody was holding out some food to them, and you're not meant to feed them, and I don't think that they intended to feed them, but they were reaching through the bars trying to grab this bit of monster munch it was, and they finally did. Now, if you ever go to a zoo, please don't try and do this. You're really not meant to do it. However, I have got quite a nice shot from it, so it's something I don't think that you should be doing, but it has actually benefited me, I think. We'll see anyway, because I'm thinking that this shot is actually going to be quite nice in black and white. I've just got a feel for it, because you can see them behind the bars and they're all kind of reaching out to kind of get the thing. We'll see how it turns out anyway. I'm quite impressed with the lens. The extra bit of reach that I've got, the extra sort of 100mm reach that I've got on this is clearly making a difference. Now, the last time I came here was actually last week. I came with my parents. I said I was going to film that. I didn't manage to film that. That's why I came back here today. And that was with the 18-135 lens, which is a brilliant lens, and it's a fantastic sort of walking around lens. But the slight little bits of extra reach are allowing me to do things that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. And sure, you'd be able to get the same thing with the 100-400, but the difference, of course, with that is that the 100-400 lens is an awful lot heavier. This thing is as light as anything. If you had a camera bag which had your main walking around lens and then this lens in as well, you wouldn't notice much of a difference. It's very, very light. And partly that's because it's not as good a quality lens. However, there's a caveat to that, because the optics in here are just as good as any lens that I've seen before. And I do think, actually, that if you're looking for a sort of walking around lens, or, you know, some lenses that you could pick up to take with you, then this is absolutely a fantastic choice. And I think I've got some really nice pictures in here. As for settings today, it's a little bit difficult. It's a brightish day, but it's not overly bright. It's there's not a lot of shadow, sort of harsh light around, which is great, but there's not a lot of actual light around. It's kind of overcast. Now, personally, I like filming it or shooting in those conditions anyway, because it means when you get it back into the computer, you've actually got an awful lot more that you can play around with. So settings-wise, at the moment, it's one of the great things about this camera. I can just look at the camera as opposed to having to turn it on. I've got the shutter set to 500. Because you're working with animals and animals move and you want to make sure that you get all of that movement. I've got the ISO set to 640 actually. It's allowing me to use that 230 at the lowest possible setting and still get good readings on it and still get some good pictures on it without too much grain, without too much of a problem. So far, it's gone quite well. My next stop is actually closer to the kind of the lions and the I want to say elephants, but that's not right. Anyway, it's closer to there, so I'm going to head off now and see if I can get another shot.
As I was walking around and before I left the smaller animals, I also ran into some parrots, and I was very impressed not only with the sharpness of this image, but also the colours as well. You wouldn't have known that it wasn't taken with a top-of-the-range lens, and I was over the moon with some of the images that I got at the zoo. Clearly, that extra 100mm over my usual lens was having an effect.
I'm on my way to find the bigger animals. I can see some rhino over the other side of this paddock. But I run into the major problem that I have with this lens, and of course with all of the XC lenses as well, and that's that they're not weather sealed. Now, it's not raining at the moment. There was a few spots of rain a little bit earlier on. But this is the problem with the thing. I live in Britain, it rains all the time. I can't rely on having a lens that I can only use when the weather's fine, because there's often it's not. So I'm going to have to, you think very, very seriously about sort of spending the money on the lens. Now, Mum's used it for ages, but Mum and Dad, they don't often go out if it's not nice. You know, if they know the weather's not going to be good, they'll not go. They take bags with them. I've got a camera here that's unprotected. I can wrap my coat in it if I need to, but other than that, it's pretty unprotected. Anyway, So my final thoughts on the lens are this. It's brilliant. It's really sharp. Optically, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this lens at all. I really like the quality of the pictures that you've got from it. Of course, any Fuji lens is going to kind of give you that quality from it. But it does have its issues. If you're thinking about picking something like this up, your other option is to spend more money and get the 50 to 200, which of course doesn't give you that extra 30mm reach. That extra 30mm reach has made a difference today. Although I don't know if you could shoot around it, because of course you've got a slightly larger sensor for an APS-C camera. It has its problems. It doesn't have optical image stabilization. You have to rely on whatever is in your camera body. It isn't weather sealed, and in a climate like we have in the UK, that's a distinct problem. But if you're looking for that sort of lens where you don't want to spend too much money on it, but you need that extra reach, that extra focal range, this is it. It's brilliantly sharp, and it's there's a roaring lion over there, and it sounds really good. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with the images that I got today. Will I pick one of these up? I don't know. I do want to get the 100 to 400 first, but next time I do a sort of wildlife thing, I think I'll try that out.
That, of course, is one of the things that you can do if you're not sure about a lens. Borrow them, hire them before you put down the money, because it can save an awful lot of problems and an awful lot of expense as well. However, even though I'd finished with my lens review, there was one thing left to do, and that was to try and take a picture of a lion, something that I'd failed to do before.
Well, that was an experience, and that was the last few shots of today. I saw a lion. It moved whilst I was there. It sat in a position basically looking at me, which is always good. And looking at we've got a real star up there as a lion. I didn't think I'd get anything. Now, the last time I came here, I didn't get a lion at all. In fact, I'll show you a couple of pictures of that right now. I got a few shots, but they're not quite as sharp as I wanted them to be. And partly the reason for that is because you are behind glass. You're sitting watching the lion behind glass. And of course, it's glass that people have put their fingerprints on, and you can see reflections in and all sorts of other things. This time, probably because the light was a little bit smoother, I think I've got something. And I think it's pretty good. I'm a little bit pleased with this. Anyway, here we go. We'll put that into Lightroom. I'll show you any pictures that I hadn't shown you so far, and I'll see you in the next video. Here we go. These are the pictures that I finally got of a lion at the Cotswold Safari Park.
I was incredibly fortunate to reach the enclosure just as this lion decided to move, so I have a few shots, which I've still not edited yet, but they show the lion moving into position. Not all of them are 100%, but most of them are, and that's a pretty impressive keep rate for wildlife photography. I'd love to know what you think about this shot in the comments below, and also what you think of the lens as well. Until next time, that's it for this particular video, but please do remember not only to subscribe, but to share this video around with anybody who you think might be interested. That really does help the channel when you do that. Next time, we're going to have a bit of photography chat, and I'll also be putting out another business video this week too. Until then, thanks very much for coming along, and don't forget to keep taking those pictures.